It's time for HawgSports Live from HawgSports.com, a division of 24/7 Sports, presented by Crain Automotive. The Crain Team's got 'em. Visit them online at crainteam.com. And now with the latest breaking updates on HawgSports, here's Trey Biddy.
What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HAWGsports.com. A little bit of technical difficulties with this device right here, but we got it figured out. So sorry, we're about 20 minutes late on the show getting started, but we're going to have a great show today. We're going to have Danny West hop on and talk to us a little bit about roster building, what's coming up in recruiting, coaching search, assistant coaching search stuff anyway, and Connor Goodson is going to hop on and talk us a little bit about the basketball game against Texas Tech, a big win for the Hogs, what's coming up with Queens and Houston, a lot of big stuff to discuss. We'll take your questions as well. All that and more on today's episode of Hog Sports Live. The Crain Automotive Team has 16 locations across our state and is home to the Crain commitment. You'll find Ford, Chevy, Buick, GMC, Hyundai, Kia, Volkswagen, and access to thousands of pre-owned vehicles. Vehicles for every lifestyle and every budget. Even if you're not in the market for a vehicle, the Crain Team Service Centers offer the latest in vehicle diagnostic technology and certified technicians to take care of your vehicle, get you back on the road. Check them out at crainteam.com. Hog Sports Live is driven by the Crain Automotive Team.
You've done it. Now you're the Crain Cash Champ. You just won big with the Crain Team. Go ahead, soak it up. How could you not feel like a winner? You dominated with our low price guarantee, and you got way more for your trade. Plus, with statewide delivery on thousands of vehicles from 16 locations, and the fact that we'll beat any other dealer's price, we make our Kansans feel like champions every day. That's winning. That's the Crain Team. Visit crainteam.com.
You're a winner, man. You're a winner. Okay, so everything's a little bit out of order here because I had to reboot. So just to explain what happened here, no, it was not Ozarks Go. Ozarks Go continues to work. This device, for some reason, which my camera hooks into, this microphone hooks into, it goes into the port on my computer, was malfunctioning. For a while, I thought it was something wrong with the port. I thought it needed to be cleaned. But no, it's this thing right here. But I do have backups for these devices. In fact, I need to plug this into here. Does that work? No. So this one doesn't have an Ethernet, so I don't use that. So we're just streaming off Wi-Fi here. But this device right here did not work also. It just made a green screen. But this other one that I have, a third one, has worked. So I got to order another one of these because this is more powerful and more reliable until today. So that's where things are. All right. And since I rebooted, I may have lost my, there it is. Okay. There we go. We're in order. We're back on pace here. All right. Arkansas basketball with a big win, 8-93. And again, Danny West is going to join us here in about 15 minutes. And then Connor Goodson also talk about basketball. But Arkansas with what a great game. 93-86 over Texas Tech, the team that knocked you out of the Sweet 16. It's really fun when Trevin Brazile takes over a game. Like, for anybody to take over a game is fun, but Trevin he's such a high flyer. Think about that inbounds pass on that dunk. They didn't even go in, but it's inside and outside. It's just very exciting when he gets going and dominates the game. It just felt like the whole game, like Arkansas just kind of hanging around, and then it's like 10 minutes left. Okay, go get them. Sick them, boys. It was the bench points, 23-8. I mean, I think that's a huge part of this whole thing, just wearing those guys out. You look at the number of guys that got into the scoring column for Arkansas versus Texas Tech. We'll talk more about it with Connor, but, man, Acuff, 8 assists, 4 rebounds, 20 points in 34 minutes. Brazile, 8 of 13 from the floor, 4 or 5 from three-point range, 24 points, 10 rebounds. Carter Knox with 20 points and 6 boards. So it was fun to see. A lot of small ball, if you call it that. A smaller lineup. You didn't see Pringle as much on the floor. He only played 11 minutes. Ewan only played 18 minutes. So fun game. A lot of fun stuff coming up. A lot of people talking about Arkansas right now, and that's cool to see from a national perspective. Arkansas football transfer portal, the latest things happening with the with Arkansas on the football roster. The last thing to happen was actually Friday. It's kind of weird, like in the position that we're in, we're just like sitting there watching, waiting for a phone call to hear something's going to happen. A lot of the time we'll get wind that a story's, a guy's going to come or he's going to go, and we'll get something ready. But, you're just sitting around waiting, like Sunday, just sitting around kind of, waiting, had some things going on, but always checking, always waiting to see if something pops up, and nothing really did. So really the last thing that happened was Friday with Kevin Otis saying, we working all in. We kind of, on our timeline, our transfer portal tracker, we just kind of put like what they're saying, ready to grind all in, said Kobe Brennan. I'm a MF Razorback all in, said Caden Kittler. So the latest things that have happened, the last guy to leave was Tavian Wallace, said he plans to enter the transfer portal. Caden Kittler says he's coming back. This was Thursday. Kobe Branham says he's ready to grind. He's all in. That was Thursday. Braylon Russell announced 6:31 p.m. Braylon, that's dinner time. Can't be breaking news at dinner time. Says he's returning, but certainly good news there. And then Kevin Otis also at 7:20. It's about to get crazy. 71 on scholarship right now. Guys that have either said I'm coming back or guys that haven't said that they're leaving who have eligibility remaining. So right now that number is 71. I think that number is actually a lot lower than that. Just waiting for a couple of guys to say that they're not returning to Arkansas. But yeah, a lot going on with the Arkansas football roster. Scholarship total at 71. We know that they can have 105 now. I've got them with 3 quarterbacks right now. KJ Jackson's the only guy who said he's coming back. Running back Braylon Russell, and you'd expect Terry Hodges, obviously, since he signed with Arkansas. But I've got them at 5 running backs right now with only Russell and Hodges saying that they're coming back. 13 wide receivers with only Jalen Brown, DeQuane Prevost, Blair Irvin, and Jude Hall, the 3 high school kids. But it would expect some of these other guys to come back too. I think that'll happen. Tight end, nobody has said anything, but Lassiter has said he's coming back. But you've also got Jaden Platt and Gavin Garrettson, who haven't really said anything yet. Caden Kittler, Kobe Brannon, the 3 high school recruits on the offensive line. I've got them at 12 total right now. The only guy who said he's leaving is Shaq McCroy. Nose guard, Danny Beal and Anthony Kennedy, the 2 high school recruits. Again, we've broken this down into nose guard, defensive tackle, defensive end, and jack. Maybe we change that up a little bit and merge nose and defensive tackle, but really they're all 3 very, different. Like you'd expect a nose to be 320 plus, a defensive tackle about 300 plus, a defensive end about 280, and then your jack about 250. So really 3 body types for all these. Obviously you can a 300-pound guy, you can get in at 320 pretty easily, I guess. But Danny, Bill, and Kennedy both listed at 320, 330. So we've got them at nose guard. 4, Ian Jaffard, Reginald Vaughn haven't said anything just yet. Defensive tackle, Kevin Otis, obviously has said he's coming back. We haven't heard anything on Okie. I think Okie's probably leaving. If I had to guess, Caleb Bell, I think Okie's almost certainly leaving. Just based on how that kind of played out, but we'll see. Defensive end, Quincy Rhodes, Keandre Johnson have said they're coming back. I've got them at 3. Nothing from Caleb James just yet. Jack, Colton Yarborough, obviously signed with Arkansas. You haven't heard anything from Talley, Collins, Henderson, Trent Sellers. I think this Jack position is tailor-made for a guy like Charlie Collins, though. Linebacker, Ja'Cory Smith, who signed with Arkansas. Tavian Wallace has said he's leaving, the most recent guy to say he's not coming back. And then you've got, 4 more. So you got 5 linebackers who either said they're staying or haven't said anything at all. 6 cornerbacks right now, just the 2 high school kids. Nobody has said they're coming back. Keyshawn Davila has said he's leaving. Safety, you've got the 2 high school commitments there, Lockett and Kendrick Williams. The other guys have not said anything. Nobody said they're leaving. That's 7 right there. You got a kicker, Scott Starzik. You got a punter, Connor Smith from the high school ranks. No long snapper right now that we know of on scholarship, but they do have a long snapper on the roster, so I would assume he's going to end up being on scholarship because he kind of has to, right? It's 105 max scholarships, 105 roster limit. So 71 total. I should go ahead and just put that long snapper that they got a commitment from on there. Why wouldn't I? If he's going to be on the roster, then he's going to be on scholarship. Why would you hold a scholarship away from him? Maybe they could have other plans for that, though. They could be like, yeah, the limit's 105, but we're not going to give, they do have to technically pay for the scholarships, but they're taking $2.5 million off the top of that revenue sharing to help pay for scholarships. Coaching staff, You've got Silverfield, obviously, is on board. Tim Clancy's offensive coordinator. Clint Trickett. I remember Clint Trickett when he was being recruited to Arkansas. I may have even talked to him. I don't think I did, but I may have. Danny may have talked to him. But he was being recruited to Arkansas under Bobby Petrino. His dad was offensive line coach at Florida State at the time. He ended up going to Florida State. He transferred from Florida State and went to West Virginia. And, guys, I remember him having some concussion issues. And I'm talking like this dude was getting, like, knocked out cold a couple times. And he had to end up retiring early at West Virginia and didn't finish out his college career, but was a starter there for them. And I remember when Last Chance U came on, and he's the quarterback coach at East Mississippi, and he looked like the only guy out there that really didn't belong at East Mississippi. I don't know, that defensive line coach too, probably. That defensive line coach, I think he ended up getting a position somewhere like Mississippi State or something, but Clint Trickett definitely looked like he was a guy that was going other places and stuff and has risen in the ranks. He was at Jacksonville State as offensive coordinator there. None of these hires have been announced officially. They are all unofficial hires. Larry Smith, wide receivers, coming from Memphis. David Johnson from Florida State, coming to coach running backs. Marcus, like if you talk about the guys that got like a wealth of experience here on the major level, Cramsey's been an offensive coordinator for a long time, but hasn't coached in the SEC. Trickett played at Florida State, played at West Virginia. As a player, he's got a lot of that experience, but hasn't really coached, in my knowledge anyway, in the SEC. Larry Smith, same deal. David Johnson, obviously, has been around the block, running backs coach at Florida State. Marcus Johnson has been around the block. He's coached at Purdue, Missouri, Mississippi State, was assistant offensive line coach at Ohio State before he's coming to Arkansas. Jeff Myers was at Iowa State and was running game coordinator and offensive line coach at Memphis. So both those guys, I've heard talk of another offensive line coach possibly joining. Morgan Turner being retained, the only guy that's being retained that we know of anyway right now, as a tight ends coach. And then defensive staff, you got Ron Roberts, who has been a lot of places. He was at Baylor, he was at Auburn, he was at Florida. Florida's a tough one to gauge him on, I guess, because he was not the full-time defensive coordinator in 2024. And then last year, was just a train wreck, and Napier got fired. So, but Ron Roberts, I think, is a quality defensive coordinator hire. Is he one of the elite defensive coordinator hires in the country? Probably not, but he is viewed as a guy that's an innovator. A lot of coaches have stolen a lot of his ideas when you talk about the hybrid, odd front, the creeper, some of the stuff that he does, on the defensive line, the mint front, that's basically him, the tight front. So definitely viewed as an innovator. Marion Hobby, another guy with pretty good track record, pretty good wealth of experience from him as the defensive lines coach. I think they'll probably end up hiring another defensive line coach, an outside, an edge guy, or an outside linebackers coach. Maybe both. Who knows? I mean, so those who don't know, like in 2024, in June of 2024, they said you basically can have unlimited coaches. You used to have 10. You used to have 9. And then I think when Chad Morris when he became coach at Arkansas, they said, okay, now you can have 10 assistant coaches. And basically what everybody did was they went and hired a special teams coordinator to coach on field. So you went to 10 there. And then basically they've removed that kind of blurred line with analyst and coach, So you see bigger staffs now. Arkansas still only had 10 last year, though they had some guys that were, you always have assistant offensive line coach, assistant defensive line coach, assistant wide receivers coach, those kinds of things. And those are generally not highly salaried coaches. They don't make a ton of money, but it seems like maybe those roles are just kind of being elevated a little bit more, where you are bringing a guy like Clint Trickett in to coach quarterbacks while you also have Tim Cramsey, who is just an offensive coordinator, not necessarily a position coach. Not that he wouldn't also help with quarterbacks. So interesting how all that's kind of unfolded here in the past couple years. Darren Wilson coming back to coach in the secondary. Darren Wilson took the Georgia State defensive coordinator job when he left Arkansas and then was hired at Florida as safeties coach or secondary coach at Florida. Yeah, secondary coach at Florida. And then obviously looking for a job now and coming back to Arkansas. TJ Rushing's a guy that's been around the block a little bit in the SEC also. CJ Wilford, who comes from Georgia State, also as a secondaries coach. So they've got 3 guys working in the secondary. Chad Lunsford coming over as special teams coordinator. And then they've we cannot find a pronunciation on Gazka, I believe. Gazka Crowley. The new football GM, Scott Gasper. I'm not sure his exact role. Could be football operations, could be personnel. Not sure. Nick Matthews, a senior offensive analyst also. So the coaching staff coming into shape, it still looks like there could be 1 or maybe 2 more. They have not announced the full staff. It kind of feels like they're just waiting to announce the full staff when everybody is on board, and they're just going to announce it then. I think. I don't know. I feel like that's what they're going to do at this point. Geiska, comes from Arizona. I mean, this seems like a pretty nice hire from people I've talked about. People have reached out. We've had an interesting discussion on the Razor's Edge the last couple of days just because an assistant coach reached out to me to tell me what a great hire Ron Roberts is. And, one of our beloved posters, Razorback NYC, shout out, I had mentioned something like, said it was disingenuous for me just to talk about the positives. But, I mean, usually people only come with me with positives. They don't go, man, Trey, what a terrible hire, unless they're just like, your regular everyday fan. But anyway, he'd reached out to me, and I'd heard some good things about Gazka too from one other person, not in coaching, but somebody in the industry who thinks that's a pretty nice hire for Arkansas too. So hopefully that comes to fruition, and these are nice hires. I think some good points that have been made, like, Ryan Silverfield isn't like just this big splash hire, but also somebody that I'm willing to give a chance to. Like, I think everybody should be willing to give a chance to this guy. He is the Arkansas coach. I think the last thing that we could do that would help, I think the last thing that would help would be to just, unrelenting criticism of him. And, you can be negative on it, and the odds are you're probably going to end up being right, that things aren't going to work out if you are negative about it. If you do have a bad opinion about it, odds are you're going to be right. We've talked about this several times, but every single coach in this conference, except for Brent Venables and Kalen DeBoer, every coach in this conference took over the job that they have because the guy in front of them got fired. Every single one of them. So odds are, if you're like, you're going to be able to come back in years from now and be like, I told you so. I told you it wasn't going to work out. Odds are you'll be able to do that. But there's also plenty of examples. This was a great point by, I wish I could remember who, but somebody on our board was just like, you can point to there's so many hires out there that people said that's a terrible hire. There's some stuff coming out about Kurt Signetti, people's reaction to him being hired at Indiana. So one guy's like, he sounds like he's drunk up there on stage. Yeah. Kurt Signetti, who everybody would take right now. Everybody would hire Kurt Signetti right now. And then there are other examples like, everything says that Scott Frost should have worked out. Rich Rodriguez should have worked out at Michigan. There's like coaches that people thought absolutely without a doubt should have worked out, did not. And plenty of coaches that people didn't think would work out have worked out. It's about getting the right fit. The important thing for this coaching staff is to instill mental toughness in this football program. Guys that want to be there and want to play football. I mean, there are people that play football that don't really care. And you have to have guys that love it and that are obsessed with winning. You have to have toughness. You got to win on special teams. You got to protect the football. You got to force turnovers, and you got to limit penalties, especially in critical situations. Have a little luck on the way, have the ball bounce up and down here and there too. All right, let's go to Danny West. Danny joins us to talk a little bit about everything going on, Danny. I mean,
hey, buddy.
Not so much just like a wealth of recruiting news, but we got a little bit of stuff. Danny joins us on the Ozarks Go hotline. You can reach out to our friends at Ozarks Go at 479-684-4900 or go to ozarksgo.net/hawg, HAWG, and find out if they're available in your area. It's a local company. They're not going to jack your rate up from year 1 to year 2. I've used them for 4 years now without issue. Been very pleased with them, and I have had, I think, 3 other internet service providers, and none of them have come close. So I give them my 100% stamp of approval. ozarksgo.net/hawg, HAWG, 479-684-4900. Talk to a local person when you call. Northwest Arkansas and parts of Oklahoma. Danny.
Hey, bud.
We got about a dozen guys that are going to enroll coming up.
Yeah, how about that? That's already about a month away now, buddy. So I had it up here, Trey. We can get into that list just as soon as I find it. But, 12 of the 17, and we are officially at 17 now. I heard you talking about the long snapper, Eli Haltom.
Yeah.
He's officially got a 24/7 sports profile page, Trey.
Okay. And he has to be on scholarship, Danny, I would assume, right? Unless they're just going to go, we're not going to go the 105, which I don't know why you would do that.
Yeah, when he committed, Trey, back in June, I always ask, is this going to be a scholarly guy? Because under Pippen, so many of them were, special teams guys, especially around June. Fountain would bring out, 150, 200 kids in. He's probably going to offer 3 to 5 of them. So that's going to be a little bit different going forward, I would imagine. I don't know how many more they're going to keep, offering full rides to. I guess with the expansion of the roster, you can do that. So it was explained to me at the time, he's a walk-on right now, but eventually he's going to be a scholarship, which told me when they move to 105, he's probably going to be involved in that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, you're going to carry a couple of long snappers. So you're going to have 2. Yeah, I didn't even think about that when I was doing the breakdown, but you're not going to have just one punter. You're not going to have just one long snapper. You're not just going to have one kicker on the roster. So you're going to give those guys scholarships, I guess, right?
It's going to take a major adjustment by us to get used to that, but I would see that as
this is entering my head in real time.
Dude, that's how it all is for us. We're all learning on the go here, but yeah, you make a good point. That's got to be the case, you would think. I mean, you wouldn't want them senior, junior, right? Mm-hmm. You would want them spaced out, I would think. If you're gonna go that route, but that's probably going to happen.
You got to carry 2 kickers.
You got to.
I mean, yeah. So anyway, that's something to think about. We kind of got to. I feel like I need to go and reevaluate the next thing after the show. I got to reevaluate the scholarship distribution and the needs at each position.
So you're thinking up to 6 special teams?
Well, you got to have a backup snapper. Well, yeah. I mean, maybe it makes it more valuable to have a guy who's an actual offensive lineman who can deep snap, in case you ever need it.
Not a bad idea.
But you also can't just have your deep snapper just not pushed by anybody.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting to think about, Danny.
Yeah. Arkansas's had some notable long snappers, pretty good run dating back to Good. Mm-hmm. How long ago was that now, Biddy? I was Coach Nutt's days.
Brett Good was around when Casey Dick was here, because I remember the names on the back of the jersey.
Good point.
More Good.
What was it now?
Yeah, that's right. I was actually at a Christmas party Friday or Saturday, but Brett was there. I didn't talk to him, but his wife and my wife and some of their friends all kind of travel in similar circles. But cool. I never really talked to Brett. He didn't really.
Here we are.
Talk to me.
We're kicking it off with long snapper news on a Monday. Let's
That's
pick
right.
it up a little bit, but
let's beef it up a little bit. So
12, let's get into that. Let's go over these dozen if you want to, Biddy. We'll just run through them real quick. There's 3 on offense that's going to be joining in January. Not much. TJ Hodges, the running back. This one's key in my opinion. DeQuan Prevost, wide receiver out of Bentonville, as well as Blair Irvin from Bentonville. But you know how I've been, Trey. I'm really high on Prevost, and for him to get in early, I think it's going to give him a shot. That's a position that maybe you can get away with it a little bit better, relative to like an offensive or defensive lineman. True freshman can still come in and help you there. And I think, he was really a great fit for Bobby, in my opinion. He's kind of that mix, as we've talked about, between Joe and Jerry is perfect mix. He's got the wiggle, he's got the long speed, all of it. And I just feel like he's going to benefit greatly. It wouldn't shock me if he really helps out as a freshman. Defensively, let me move on down my list here. That's where you're getting the majority of your freshman help. It was really going back to the initial flip of that first Monday for Ryan on the job. You got Danny Bill, Anthony Kennedy Jr., Ja'Cory Smith, and who am I missing there, Biddy? He left out one more. He flipped from inside the state. Did I name 4 there?
Let's see. You said Kennedy, Bill.
Yeah. And Hodges was on offense. Yeah.
Yeah, Hodges.
So, we named Hodges. But, so that's your 12, and then that would leave 5 coming in, late May, early June, and that's going to be Jude Hall, the wide receiver that they picked up late. Picked up another Brandon Ford, the cornerback. He switched over from the Memphis commitment list late there as well. So 2 guys that you kind of stole from Memphis. Jude Hall will be coming in late, as well as your 3 offensive linemen, Ben Mubenja, Hugh Smith, and Tucker Young, all enrolling in the summer, which, it doesn't kill you. You wouldn't expect any of those 3 to jump in and compete right away for a starting spot. But Ben, that's another one. If I could circle one kind of long term, he's one of my favorites from this past class. I think he's going to have a real shot, maybe even next year. Maybe he's only a year or 2 away, but I don't think it really impacts him not getting in early. He's going to be fine.
Yeah. On the offensive, I think Mateos, congratulations to him, ended up at Wisconsin. I knew you'd end up with a really good job. But he did. I just think he did a really good job with some of these young offensive linemen and people I talked to. We know that like Pittman and Mateos and them felt good about those young guys, but from what I hear from people, like Lionel Prudhomme might be a guy that starts for him next year, and Cash Courtney. Yeah. They really like Blake Cherry also. So some promising young offensive linemen on this team, and obviously we know that's where it starts.
I think those guys, both of those 2, going to stick around. Trey, Cherry, and Courtney.
I think Cash definitely, and I think Cherry probably, just based on what I've heard, and I think just a little bit of what I've heard around that Prudhomme will also. But I hear some good things regarding those guys sticking around. So not official or anything. Anything can change. Obviously we haven't even. There's plenty of tampering to come, and
it feels early, doesn't it?
It does, man. And that was kind of the title of today. Hog Wild Offseason continues. It's already been wild, Danny. Like, think about everything that's happened. You've had the Lane Kiffin ordeal with him leaving Ole Miss, who's in the college football playoff. All the coaching search stuff with so many big jobs going on. And then hey, let's throw in something wild with Sharon Moore at Michigan. And let's have, Kyle Whittingham retire. It's been
Chris Kleiman too.
Yeah. And Kleiman, who
the best coaches in the game, just gone.
Kleiman was a guy that I had heard had interest in Arkansas. He was one of the, now. Yeah, he was one of the guys that I had heard, and then the next thing I know, he has that press conference that's very emotional. But I had heard that he might be a guy to keep an eye on as a possibility. So, but anyway, it's been such a wild offseason, and then as we got 10 days till Christmas, and man, after that, I just think it's going to be absolutely insane. With guys making announcements, and I think they'll continue to trickle here and there. Like we hadn't had anything the last couple of days really, as far as guys announcing for the portal or announcing that they're returning, but it's coming. I mean,
trying to get some final hours of sleep before that happens. Yeah. Hey, we do have our first scheduled visitor from the transfer. Did you already touch on that one?
The defensive back.
Yeah, Kanye. Easy.
Yeah. I didn't talk about him. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, he's got 2 years left. He's out of Slippery Rock. And I know a lot of people hear that and go, "What are we doing?" But I mean, I want to remind people of some of these names: Ridgeway, Armstrong, Tesla. Forget all that. Forget it. College football is riddled with players just like this. You look at what happened at Indiana. I get it. Every case is different, but there's good players everywhere, and this guy runs a 10.13. So, I mean, I don't care about anything else. He runs a 10.13. He's 6 foot 168. 10.13 is just Google it. If that's insane. He's got 2 years left, and because he is a Division II player, he could already enter the portal, which he did on the 18th. Yeah, the 18th of November, and then he got offered next day by Ryan Silverfield at Memphis. So, this thing's been building up for I guess about a month now, and other offers came in from Texas Tech, Nebraska, Kansas State, Pitt. He did take a trip in late November to KU. Also got TCU offers, so there's some pretty good offers there. And 60 tackles, 5.5 tackles for a loss. And this is a corner at 6 foot 168. He's got 3 sacks, so that tells you Slippery Rock is probably bringing a little heat off the edge out there. 10 pass breakups, so you see the cover skills there. 4 forced fumbles. Doesn't mind sticking his face in there. So, again, the school name doesn't bother me. I'm excited to meet him. It seems like he's really excited to potentially get on campus and lock that thing up. It wouldn't shock me at all if that one moves really quickly, just based on his comments to, I think it was BD, wasn't it? Wasn't it Brian? Brian Don, excuse me, brought that news to us.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was.
Well,
I was just looking at a couple of the comments here. This is when I barely even got the show going. Razorback Red Kool-Aid is in full force. Do you think it's in full force, Danny? I don't feel like fans are like.
I haven't predicted my 6 wins yet.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we're going to wait on that. We haven't fully stretched our legs on that.
One of my favorite comments was when this guy was like, when I had predicted them to win 5 games last year, and I was talking about I was just talking about the secondary, and I didn't even say anything other than just talking about it. And it's like, yeah, you said the secondary was going to be awesome last year too. And I was like, well, first of all, I didn't say they were going to be awesome this year, but also I didn't predict them to go 5-7 and have this awesome secondary.
True.
We could. I might come back to this. Kenny and Melanie Wright says Omega gone right. Yes, Omega Blake is out of eligibility, but I might come back to that just to maybe remind people a little bit of who has run out of eligibility that were notable players. Seek the Kingdom says, convince me that Ron Roberts isn't John Chavis 2.0. One of the things that I have seen a lot of is you find the worst possible example to compare somebody to. Chavis mailed it in at Arkansas. He mailed it in and was just taking a paycheck, wasn't recruiting, doing the bare minimum, and did a terrible job. And basically, in my opinion, just stole $1.5 million from Arkansas. I don't think it's fair to compare Ron Roberts to John Chavis, just like I don't think it's fair to compare Ryan Silverfield to Chad Morris. Thoughts?
Yeah. Hey, I'll tell you this. If Coach Roberts knows 3 players' names already, he's already got John beat.
Oh yeah.
John didn't know anybody. Recruits, current players, me, nobody.
Yep. How embarrassing was it that time that he was, they had that recruiting deal and they asked him to come up and talk about the recruits and he couldn't do it.
Buddy, that's that's a low point. That's one of the lowest I've seen. Yeah. And what's worse is it was other coaches being like, hey, Danny, watch this.
Yeah.
Watch this train wreck that we see all the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was 1.5 down the drain.
I was also like, one of my first things that I noticed was like, so we used to do the coaches, media, car dealerships, golf tournament, golf scramble at Paradise. And so I get my deal. And the first year I played with Dustin Fry, I believe. And and then the second year I got John Chavis, and I was like, it might've been the other. No, I think that was it. Yeah. I think it was John Chavis the second year. I was like, all right, I get to play with the defensive coordinator. I've never got to play with a coordinator before. And that dude bailed. He didn't play. He didn't play. He's like, yeah, I'm not going to play. I was like, so I got a threesome now, I guess, and no coach.
Well, I hate when that happens.
Yeah. I was just not happy about that. I just thought that was kind of a, anyway, I wish we'd bring that back. It was a good way to kind of get to know some of those guys a little better on the golf course and not talk business so much.
Why did we stop doing that? I never golfed.
Probably because Sam didn't golf. Probably because Sam didn't golf. I saw this one time, Danny. I saw the coaches didn't participate in it one year. Brett Bielema's first year.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't participate in it, and so we're all out there, and like the coaches aren't going to play in it. And it's like, okay, so it's just
the
media and the car dealerships, I guess. So so we
just
did it.
Bad golf all day.
Yeah. The next year, when I was a member out at Springdale Country Club, so I go out there the next day, and I'm going to go play 9 holes or something, and I'm on the driving range, and then Barry Lundy walks up, and then whoever football operations guy was at the time, I can't remember. I remember his face, but I can't remember who he was. But anyway, they walk up there on the driving range, and I was like, y'all playing today? And they're like, yeah, we're going to play today. I was like, oh, okay. So too busy to play in the deal yesterday, but going to come out here today. And we had a good time with it, laughing about it a little bit. There was also some dude who ran up on their group and just said, hey, can I join y'all? Which not okay to do.
Yeah, that's not cool, man.
Yeah. All right, Danny. Appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, I know Connor's coming on, right?
Yeah, we got Connor Goodson up next.
Okay.
All
We'll
right.
see you.
All right, later, everybody. That's Danny West. Follow him at Danny West on X. At Danny West 24/7 on X, and read his content at HawgSports, HAWGsports.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Okay. Getting you off, Danny, getting Connor on. Ooh, we got 3. All right. Before we talk Connor, I want to mention our friends over at Blakeman's Fine Jewelry this holiday season. Shop for a meaningful gift that will last. Blakeman's Fine Jewelry, the official jewelry of the Arkansas Razorbacks. From exceptional diamonds and homeware to designer jewelry and timepieces from brands like David Yurman, Rolex, Tudor, Baccarat, and more. Enjoy a festive shopping experience both in-store at 3202 Pinnacle Hills Parkway in Rogers and from anywhere at BlakemansFineJewelry.com. Make your holidays unforgettable with Blakeman's. Connor?
What's up, Trey?
Not much. I mean, basketball team's looking pretty good. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that was a heck of a win on Saturday against Texas Tech. We talked about it last week when you had me on, kind of preview that game. It had vibes of a March Madness type of game where Arkansas really had to grind it out, overcome some incredible performances from Toppin and Anderson. And then down the stretch, you saw guys just make plays. Arkansas made plays. They're getting after it. Texas Tech's legs were starting to kind of go out from under them. And Arkansas was able to hang on and pick up a really big win. They just now released the AP Top 25 poll. Arkansas moves up 3 spots to 14th after that win. And some of the metrics, man, they're starting to really like this Arkansas team. I know for sure that I really like how this team's playing and how they're looking right now.
Only 3 spots. I thought maybe a little bit more, but it was just not much movement, I guess, ahead of them.
Yeah, not much movement. They are the highest ranked multi-loss team. So everyone above Arkansas right now has 1 or less losses on the season. Mm-hmm. So they are the top 2-loss or more team right now. So I kind of expected them to be more in that 12-13 range. Louisville's still ranked ahead of them, which I kind of probably would have flipped those two. So yeah, but they're casually moving up, and they're obviously going to have another big opportunity on Saturday with Houston, 8th ranked Houston in Newark, New Jersey.
Yeah. So we've got Queens coming up. Is that Tuesday or Wednesday?
Tuesday night, a late tip at 8 p.m.
8 o'clock. I don't mind an 8 o'clock tip. Sometimes I pushed a little bit later or have to flip over to the other network or something. But is that on the Plus or?
I think it's the big SEC network. Let me pull it up again.
Yeah, it's SEC network. Okay.
Yeah.
So probably going to start on ESPN News and then have to change back over. And then Houston is Saturday, December 20th at the Prudential Center at 4:30 p.m. That's an exciting matchup. And then it's James Madison, and then it's go time.
Man. Yeah, it's the real grind of the season starts. You get two games a week to really prove yourself against the SEC. It's not as good at the top as it was last year. Like the talent level is a little bit down. Yeah, but still really quality teams. I mean, you got like Vanderbilt's kind of come out of nowhere. They're a team that has really impressed some folks. They're really, the metrics love Vanderbilt right now. Obviously, you've got Alabama, the Tennessees, Auburn's still there with Stephen Pearl as head coach. And you got some other teams that weren't great. I mean, LSU was awful last year, and they're like, I believe 33rd in KenPom right now. They're putting together a pretty good season. So you're gonna have fights every night in conference play, and you're going to also have more opportunities. It doesn't stop with just Houston. You know, a lot of focus has been on these marquee non-conference games where you're going to have a lot of chances in conference play to really kind of separate yourselves from some of these pretenders and show that you're a contender, which I thought they did a good job of doing that Saturday. And now you kind of have a little bit less pressure going into the Houston matchup. Like if you lost Texas Tech, you'd be like, well, maybe the Louisville game was a fluke. You have all this stuff circling out there. It puts pressure on you. Now you got a little bit of leeway to go out. If you lose that Houston game, it's not the end of the world. And then obviously you'll have more opportunities in conference, like I said.
Yeah. You know, after they lost that Duke game, I'd made a tweet. I was like, I'm not too worried. You know, I could see stuff coming together. And I think the first reply was you're not worried. And I said, I'm not too worried. I said I wasn't worried a little bit. I said I'm not too worried. But I think that has, you know, they're coming. Like that win over Louisville was nice. I mean, they didn't just like finish stomping them, but they just, you know, held on. Yeah. And then the way that they won against Texas Tech, that last 9-12 with Trevin taking over the way he did was just beautiful. I mean, they were getting, you know, the double team, they were doubling a lot, and it seems like Texas Tech just found the open guy over and over and over again. And then they turned it up really. They turned it up pretty high at the, you know, towards the end of the first half. They hit that big three right before half, but Arkansas had turned it up on them pretty significantly there to finish the first half. And then, man, that last 9 minutes, it just felt like Arkansas had a plan. And sometimes it hasn't always felt like that, you know.
Yeah, and we've seen for stretches when Arkansas hits that they kind of flip that switch, and you get guys like Carter Knox, you get DJ Wagner, you get Trevor Brazile playing like we kind of expected them to at the end of last year to kind of carry over that. When they've done that for stretches, Arkansas there's nobody in the gym that can compete with them. Like even for stretches against Duke, they just outclassed them when they were getting some of these guys like Malik Ewan stepping up and giving them some really good stretches. Like when they're playing up to the standard that we kind of all expected coming into the season, I mean, it's clear what the blueprint is and what this team's ceiling can be, and that they are one of the best teams in the country. It's just harnessing that and playing for longer stretches to be able to close out teams. And we saw them again against Texas Tech. I mean, the final, what was it, 8-23? Trevor Brazile outscored Texas Tech on his own. Like the Arkansas outscored them 27-11 over the final 8.5 minutes. And Trevor Brazile had like 14 or 16 of his 24 points in that stretch. So when you get the other guys that kind of help the freshman punch of you know, Malik Thomas and Darius Acuff, when you get those others that step up and play how we thought that they were going to play coming into the season, it just changes the complexion of this team completely. And you really kind of see how dangerous this team can be when they're kind of firing on all cylinders and getting that help from all 8 guys on the roster.
It would be nice to see them beat Houston. I mean, they've lost to 2 top 10 teams, lost to Duke, obviously, lost to Michigan State, beat the 11th team in Louisville. But it feels like at 14, if Arkansas can beat Houston, I think that they would vault up into the top 10. I think if that happened, you think so?
I think so too. I don't think that there would be any way you could keep them out unless just I mean, I can't get in the mind of every AP top 25 voter, but it would seem that they would, you know, move up substantially, especially in like the net and KenPom. Once those metrics really start to get those data points and you knock off a team like Houston, who's been like a data point darling for however many years, you do that, you really are making a statement, and you really go into conference play with some momentum. Now, there is something to be said about Calipari's teams over the years. Like he doesn't want them to peak too early. And so if you beat Houston, you start to run into some of that. Are they peaking too early? But I mean, I don't really buy into that too much because, I mean, like I said,
Right.
SEC play.
Did Duke peak too early?
Yeah, I mean,
Michigan State,
yeah, no, yeah, and so I mean, I've seen a lot of that stuff. Well, I don't want to peak too early, and I don't want everyone. I don't want the media to really fall in love with this and all that thing. You're going to have a lot of adversity in conference play. Like, let's not sell ourselves short here. That it's going to be a gauntlet in conference play too. So picking up that win against Houston, man, that's a big feather in your cap and a big confidence booster going into the grind of SEC schedule for sure.
Yeah, Texas Tech fell to 19th, so they didn't drop very far, just 3 spots.
Yeah, and that goes to show that some of the voters are really valuing Arkansas a lot because if they didn't expect Arkansas to be a good team, they probably would have dropped them further. So there's some give and take in that in some of those rankings, which is good to see.
You surprised to see Florida right now? I mean, they've lost 4 games, lost 2 in a row. I mean, they're Duke and UConn, but
yeah, I mean, they've kind of, they haven't really beaten some, all of their big marquee tests. They've kind of fallen short, but they are a good team. It's just that backcourt, man, with former Hog Boogie Fland and I believe it's Xavier Lee. That backcourt has just really, really struggled. And we saw last year, Florida got a lot of help from their backcourt along with their front court of Hall and Chinyelu and those guys, and they were able to go on that run because they were so well-rounded and they had so much talent. You bring in some guys that are more offensive focused, not really great defenders. You see what can happen when you lean on the portal, and it sometimes bites you. And so I think that with Florida, they're going to start to hit their stride in conference play. And Todd Golden's a really good coach, but I am surprised to see them still hanging around, and I think that the voters are kind of respecting that championship a little bit and that championship pedigree. And but yeah, it is surprising to see a 4-loss team in the top 25. I can't remember a time that I've seen it this early in the season.
Yeah, well, I mean, they lost by 1 to Duke, at Duke, and by 4 to UConn. So, all right, Connor, anything else to add?
Not really, man. Just be on the lookout. We're gonna have a lot more content coming into tomorrow's game, and then obviously the big matchup against Houston, and we'll also have you covered for all the transfer portal chaos and staff chaos that's continuing on. So appreciate you having me, man.
All right, brother. Talk to you later.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. That's Connor Goodson. Follow him at Connor Goodson on X. HawgSports basketball analyst and does a little bit of everything. Read all of his content over at HawgSports. Okay. Let's see if we got any interesting comments here. By the way, I did want to mention my Heisman vote. Actually, I think this is the first year in all the years I've been voting for the Heisman. It came out the exact same with Fernando Mendoza, Diego Pavia, and Love from Notre Dame. With Love, I thought that he was like probably the best player, but I just didn't feel like he put up Heisman numbers, and not that Mendoza did. Like, his numbers weren't just outrageous. He didn't throw for 4,000 yards or something. And, there is the idea with the Heisman that you vote for the best the quarterback on the best team, I think. I don't feel like that was really the case this year because it was Indiana, and I watched a decent number of Indiana games this season. I watched, the Penn State game, which was incredible and really was, that last drive by him was something that just obviously opened your eyes. And I thought he made a couple of throws, even though they didn't score really, against a really good Ohio State defense. He made a couple of throws that were must-have throws that were like, if he didn't make those throws, then they don't win the game, So he got my Heisman vote. I didn't feel like there was a clear-cut runaway leader. I was close to, I would say, at one point I thought I was going to vote for Diego Pavia. I thought I would vote for him, but I don't know. I felt like what Mendoza did at Indiana, taking that team and that program, was comparable to what Diego Pavia did for Vanderbilt, but Mendoza took them all the way to the Big Ten championship, and they beat Ohio State, which, again, it's a team game. You don't do that without the Indiana defense. But No real clear-cut winner. Like I'm not one of the guys that just likes vote that just does the quarterback on the best team. I like voting. If I can find a good running back, I'm still like I have I don't know, something in my heart that wants the Heisman to go to a running back. But there wasn't that guy that just went ridiculous as a running back, So even though I saw Love in person and was really impressed. Saw some good running backs this season. Okay. Walker Brothers, guys. Fine menswear. If you hadn't checked out the new Walker Brothers store in Rogers, then you should do that. In fact, I've been thinking about a way to get up there. The last 3 times or so that I've been to Walker Brothers, I've been to the store in Fayetteville. But the weather's changing, so I needed a few more clothes. You put on a little bit of Christmas holiday weight. You need some different clothes. But Walker Brothers does bring you the finest men's clothing from around the world, carefully selected to last, fit right, and help you look your best. From game day essentials to distinguished luxury wear, from a meticulously fitted suit to the perfectly faded pair of jeans, every piece in their collection is hand-selected for enduring quality and iconic style. Experience that undeniable confidence that comes with perfecting your personal style. Visit them at 577 Millsap Road, Suite number 6 in Fayetteville, or at their brand new location, 3503 South 55th Street, Suite 101 in Rogers. Good folks, Razorback fans. I actually saw John Cole, who started Walker Brothers years and years ago. Thomas Cole used to be my neighbor. Alan Cole's a very good friend of mine. We were in the same fraternity together, and I saw John and his wife, Karen, at a cheer competition yesterday. I'm a cheer dad, for those who didn't know. Okay, where we want to go? Answer a few questions real quick. We've gone over a few of the comments. Brent Philpott says, I'm going to give this coaching staff a chance to build. From what I can see, I've seen from the head coach, just wait and see. So what I will say about Silverfield is he does seem anxious and energetic. I don't feel like, he does do a little bit of coach speak, and will tell you like this isn't coach speak, because I think he believes that, like what he's saying, about they're going to do things the right way. I think he believes that they're going to put, his staff is going to be the best staff in the country. I think he believes all of those things. So it does come off as coach speak. I saw him on Feinbaum the other day, and I was just kind of like, he said, this isn't coach speak, but here's some coach speak. But I do feel like he has a extremely high level of energy, and I think it's going to get better before it gets worse, guys. I think it's going to get better here than is Silverfield going to take Arkansas to the SEC championship? That's beyond early to say. Obviously, the odds are dramatically stacked against that. Are they going to have a better program that can make us proud, make us feel like waking up every morning being like, Hogs got a chance, good day to be a Razorback, dun, 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 like fight song ringing in your head a little bit. Just feeling proud about your program. And, I feel like there's a chance that Arkansas will take a step forward. I think a better comparison for Silverfield, I don't know. There's something about him that makes me think a little bit of Houston, in terms of just his energy. Houston was a little bit wilder, a little crazier, Silverfield's a little more straight and narrow, but still has that enthusiasm and energy, I think, that's important. So hopefully that resonates with the players, and hopefully they do a good job of evaluating these guys. They're going to bring in so many players from the transfer portal. It is going to be absolutely wild. And I just hope that they really evaluate well, bring in guys that are studs. And I'll say this too, Arkansas needs some studs. Who are the studs, right? Who are and I was on with Justin Acree and DJ Williams today on the Zone on 103.7, and that was something I was kind of talking about, in addition to building a foundation of toughness, that is undeniably important. Like, you have to have a mindset and a grit about you, just a toughness. Guy like Malcolm Shepard comes to mind, Martrell Spate, some of those guys on defense. Darius Philon used to talk to you like this through his teeth. He talked to you through his teeth. Trey Flowers had that country accent. I mean, it's tough, just tough players. Offense too, like, Rashad DeBinion's not here. Rashad was, to me, he just kind of had a toughness about him too. Darren, just tough football players, and you got to have that, and you got to have a little dirty. Like, I think of Wade Grayson every once in a while too. Like, Wade wasn't the most physically talented guy, but man, he was tough and mean. There's a great scene from Yellowstone where John Dutton walks in, and the dude's a bodyguard, and he's kind of a newer character. And John Dutton walks in and just pops him on the nose or something and knocks him out or something, and then goes in and meets the dude's boss and has a quick meeting and walks out. And the guy's like, I may have told this story before, but I love the story. And when the guy walks out, and he's like, the guy's like, "That was a good move. What was that?" He goes, "Wasn't a move. I'm just meaner than you are." Got to be mean, man. You got to be mean and tough, and you got to want it, and you got to love football. So hopefully those are the kinds of players that they're going to bring in here, but they also got to bring in some superstars. Traylon Burks, Darren McFadden, Matt Jones, DJ Williams, Jarius Wright, Greg Childs, Joe Adams. Got to have some studs, straight studs. Even Matt Land, like, when's the last Matt Landers? Matt Landers was a really good player at wide receiver for them. But some studs, some guys that make a difference. Like, with the basketball team, we talk about, like, Arkansas really had a plan there at the end. They wore him down. Then they really turned it up, and they just took over the game against Texas Tech, and the best team won the final 10 minutes of that game. With football, so often, how many times in Razorback history you've been like, man, had him till the end, was right there till the end, just couldn't get it done. Yeah, because they had better players in the fourth quarter is when you turn it on. They had better players than you had. And that's where the game is won. That's where it's decided, and that's where Arkansas has fallen short so many times. Have we even talked about the schedule? Did we talk about the schedule yet? So, like I called it, Arkansas, that's not it. That's the old one. Here we go. Like I said, Arkansas was going to either get Georgia to open the season at home, or they were going to get like 2 road games to start off. And, of course, they gave them Georgia. You're going to play a tough schedule in the SEC. I just having a little bit of fun with that. Like, you're going to play a tough schedule. It would be nice, like, if you could start off with – I would love to play that Missouri game earlier in the year, but I also love that it's not the last game of the year. You play that Missouri game week 1. Let's open the season against Missouri, see how that goes. But it is a tough one. It's a tough slate. Obviously you open with North Alabama, then you're at Utah. Maybe that game becomes a little bit easier without Whittingham, maybe. They're probably going to have a decent amount of retention, though. So Georgia to open the season, then you get Tulsa and Fayetteville. So it's actually nice you have 3 of your first 4 games in Fayetteville. Okay? That's been a problem the last few years. Then we're going to Kyle Field. I'm anxious to go to Kyle Field because the only stadiums that I've not been to in the SEC, I haven't been to the new Kyle Field since they expanded it. I've been to the old one. And I haven't been to Oklahoma yet, and Oklahoma is obviously not on the schedule. But going to Kyle Field, and then you get Tennessee and Fayetteville, and then you're at Vanderbilt. I also have not been to Vanderbilt's renovated stadium, so that will be interesting to see. Then you get a bye week. You get Missouri on Halloween in Fayetteville. Not bad. Back-to-back games against Missouri and Fayetteville. Then you get Auburn at Jordan-Hare Stadium. I won't be going to that one most likely. And it's a possibility I don't go to Texas. They have moved the press box in Texas, too, to where you also can't see. They're moving it anyway. They're in the process. I was really surprised by Texas's press area. It's just very, I mean, it's not a pretty one. It's not very pretty. It's like a maze, like an ant farm. The inside of the stadium is pretty nice. Highlighted by a uterus in the end zone. But Auburn is if I go to Auburn, I'm going to sit in the stands. I'm not going to sit in that press box. I refuse to do that. South Carolina in Fayetteville, welcoming back Shane Beamer, Kendall Briles. Interesting dynamic there. Then you're, again, at Texas again. And then it's LSU, which never should have been moved in the first place, in Fayetteville, Razorback Stadium. I think that helps your chances of having a really great crowd. I don't think that Missouri was just a very good draw for people to say, it's Thanksgiving weekend. We're coming off Thanksgiving. We're coming off Black Friday. Now we're going to go to this game, So LSU is a bigger draw. I think it would entice more people. Of course, you need to win. You got to have a winning season. You can't have rain. Arkansas had rain the last 3 games of the season. Hey, let's talk Bet Saracen real quick before we hop into these questions. Bet Saracen is Arkansas's #1 sports betting app.
What can you say about Super Sid? He's one of Arkansas's all-time greats and still cares about the little guy.
What I like the most about Bet Saracen is the ability to make bets during the game.
How about this special offer from Bet Saracen?
Brand new players get a 100% profit boost just for downloading the Bet Saracen app.
I always played Bet Saracen out on the trail.
For some reason I'm thirsty for a White Russian. I watched a little bit of Big Lebowski the other day. I hadn't seen it in a while, but I own it. But I watched just a little bit, like skipping around. You want a tow? I can get you a tow by 3:00 this afternoon. Big Lebowski is probably one of my top 3 favorite movies. Arkansas is -24.5 against Queens on Tuesday. The over/under is 164.5. Last weekend, I called I had Arkansas +1.5, so I won that, but I also had the under, and I lost that. Against Queens, I'm going to take the over and Arkansas. I'm going to take Arkansas -24.5 and the over in this one. Queens has put up quite a number of points. Last time out against Wake Forest, they were drubbed pretty good. They would have gone on the over on this, but they put up a pretty good bit of points. But I think that's going to feel like a Swedish massage compared to what Arkansas is going to give to them on Tuesday. So I'm going to take Arkansas at -24.5, and I'm going to take the over in that one against the Queens Royals. Fitting mascot, I guess. All right, let's get to some questions. We'll take a like and a thumbs up from you. If you haven't done so, comment, like, share. Share with your papaw. You got your old papaw, and he's just like, he loves Razorbacks, and he's like, he's still got his newspaper and his magazines, and he's reading, and stuff, and he wants to find out more about the Hogs, but he doesn't know. He doesn't know about YouTube, but you can help him out. You can hand him your phone. You can show him how to access. You can show him how to get alerted, to set the notifications so he can watch the show every Monday and every Thursday. And there might be some talks about expanding what we do in that regard too, maybe. So anyway, let's get to some questions. If I can find my questions. I moved everything around. This thing right here put a wrench in everything. This just little device right here just no longer works. I've been using it for a couple of years. No reason it shouldn't. Okay. I mean, everything's got, I guess, so many times you can hit the on and off button before it stops working, right? Trey, what do you see as the biggest position needs to hit in the portal? This is from Hog Wild 97. I mean, what's not important? First of all, you got to go get a quarterback. I like KJ. I like a lot about him. You got to go get another quarter. You need a couple of more quarterbacks, to be honest. You only have 3 on campus right now. You're a very young room. You need a proven guy. You need a guy that's kind of up and coming. That's what I would do. And you need a competition between those 2 guys. But really, I would like to see them go spend. It's going to cost a couple $1 million to go get a quarterback. It just is. I mean, there's no way around that. And so you need to go find one, a stud. All the good teams have good quarterbacks. You cannot risk everything that you've invested into the program in quarterback. So that's the number one. He needs some wide receivers. You know, they've got some guys coming back. CC's coming back. Shanks is coming back, so on and so forth. Jaylen Brown, CJ Brown. I mean, I'm not saying they're coming back, but they haven't announced that they're leaving yet. So you have some guys there, but man, go get a stud wide receiver to go with them. You're going to have to get a stud left tackle. Maybe that's Amarian Harris, but I really think you go out and you find a stud left tackle. I think the way things could shake out a little bit on the offensive line, you got Caden Kittler at center, Kobe Branham at right guard, Amarian Harris at right tackle, and then the left side of the line's got to be kind of rebuilt. I think that's maybe where you're looking at maybe a Lionel Prudhomme, maybe a Cash Courtney at one of those guard spot at that guard spot, and then I would make sure that you went out and got a really good left tackle. You know, I would try to bring back Kevin Brassard. That, I mean, seems like a guy that they like a lot. You know, Shaq just couldn't really ever totally grasp everything that they needed to do on offense. You know, and I think that's something that kind of held him back. But yeah, I think you try to keep Kavian Brassard on the team. And maybe he's a guy that could play left tackle for you. You know, he's got some ability, I think, but it's a very important position. You need to make sure you get it right. They need some numbers at tight end. It'd be nice to keep Jaden Platt, but the numbers got to improve at tight end. Get some stud at wide receiver. Defensive line has got to be addressed. There's no question. They've got some guys that'll be a lot better who are younger, but you need some players on the defensive line, and it's going to cost you some money. You got Quincy Rhodes coming back. Just depth was a major issue all year last year. So get that taken care of. Keep Bradley Shaw. You got to keep Bradley Shaw. You got to get some linebacker help. Lord knows you need secondary. Man, you need secondary. I mean, there's not really an area hog wild where you don't need help. There isn't. Hogs D2 says, what we expecting from the staff now since it seems it's set for the most part, just not announced. What are they expecting? I mean, I don't know if it's set yet. I think that there's a possibility they could add a couple more. I mean, but at some point they're going to make an announcement at least. Every coach who has won an SEC championship game won at least 9 games by their second year. Pittman did too. Is that a reasonable expectation for Silverfield? I don't think you judge a coach harshly on year one. I think you can judge them a little bit more now on year one with the calendar the way it is than in the past few years with the calendar the way it was. I think you can judge them a little bit more. But really that second year, you need to see a pretty notable jump in terms of not making the same stupid mistakes, which are going to happen next year. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have some confusion. You know, you're not going to have as talented a roster in year one as you should in year two. So we're going to see some of that stuff next year. And people are going to jump to conclusions. They're going to get furious. What you don't want to see is like a 2-10. Like, build some momentum towards the end of the year. Kind of like, with Petrino's first year when they won 5 games, that first year they started kind of surging at the end. They beaten LSU. I think they had lost to like Mississippi State right before that though, so it's not like it was just all sunshine and rainbows at the end, but they beat LSU, had that great play, a lot of momentum in the offseason. They won 8 games the next year. The next year they won 10 and won 11. We know how that all went. So yeah, see some dramatic improvement that second year. It should look like a lot more crisp, connected team in year 2, hopefully. Brown 1994 says, we just read that. KC Hog fan says, overall grade on current staff hires and way too early 26 record prediction at this moment. You want a lot from me. Overall grade, let's see. I can't give this grade. I can't like go out and give them an A. I'm grading on like I like to grade real stuff. It's not like the Uber rating where you give a 4 and that's an F. If it's a C plus, then that means slightly above average. To me, a C would be an average higher. And right now, I would probably go in the C plus, B minus range. You know, nothing outstanding, but certainly not awful. I think there are some guys on there, but guys, I really need to. I want to see these guys more. I want to see them in action. I want to talk to them, get to know them a little bit. So it's very premature. So is this early prediction that you want me to give. But I'll tell you right now, just like if I'm just looking at it, just guessing. North Alabama, W, open the Ryan Silverfield era with a W. Losing at Utah, losing at Georgia. We'll give them a W against Tulsa at home. Losing at Kyle Field, losing against Tennessee. That Vanderbilt game is big, but probably losing. We're always picking losses against Missouri until they turn that around. How about a random win at Auburn? You know, everybody wanted Golish. Well, at least everybody talked themselves into Golish. We'll give them a win against South Carolina. We'll finish out with a couple losses. 7, 4, and 7. That's not right. That's not enough games. 8. 4 and 8. 4 and 8 off the top of my head till I see something else. Yeah, don't get too excited. Sorry for spreading the Kool-Aid, guys, with your 4 and 8. I'll get accused of it. Just wait. Just wait. The media, it's always the media's fault for getting you hyped up. No, a lot of it's fans. Like, I don't know many people in the media that were like, man, this team's got a chance to be really good. There were some, but for the most part, nobody in the media. You know, there's some people in the media that are just like, you know, radio shows or people that you don't see, you know, like we're going to tell you how it is. But like, you know, as far as like people that I see at press conferences and stuff, Tom Murphy, Andrew Hutchinson, Jackson Fuller, so on and so forth, none of those guys thought Arkansas was going to be very good, you know, including me. I thought they had a chance to maybe get to 6 wins, but also felt, you know, what I kind of felt like last season was how things started was going to determine how the rest of the season went. When they lost that Ole Miss game, I was like, yep, they're on a 4-win trajectory. And probably could have won 4, but obviously won 2. But my thoughts were like, if they start off strong, that they could really get things going. If they don't, then, of course, the secondary ended up being worse probably than last year. Were they? No, they weren't. I don't know if they were worse than the year last year, but they were horrible. I mean, it's not really an argument that you want to even have because they were bad both years, but they invested so much money into that secondary and it sucked. Like, I mean, I had a conversation with Pittman just like about the secondary and where they put their money, secondary and offensive line. Offensive line money worked out pretty good. You know, they definitely helped themselves there, but they put a lot of money into that secondary and they were not good at all. Not the worst secondary Arkansas has ever had. I saw a lot of that. It wasn't the worst, which is sad, isn't it? But a couple years ago, they gave up almost 300 yards a game through the air. Os Pierre says, wonder what our new NIL landscape budget looks like in the USA and the U of A today versus last year. I mean, it does feel like there is more money, you know. You think about Silverfield's getting $6.7 million. Sam signed here for $3 million, maybe 3.2. So, you know, twice what Sam was hired at 6 years ago. The way that they're hiring coaches right now, that's going to be the big indicator for us. Like what these coaches say. We'll be able to send freedom of information request for all these assistant coach salary. And we know Arkansas was at about $6.19 million last year for assistant coach salaries. So that's going to be the only metric that we're going to be able to look at and say, okay, there is more money for football. Look, we're not going to be able to tell for travel budget, recruiting budget, and all that stuff till we get to the end of the year and we can see the revenue report and, the expenses, the whole budget thing. But right now, coming out of the gate, we'll be able to tell if they have more funds by what this staff salary is. Last year, it was 6.19. That was 14th out of 15 SEC public schools that have to report that information. Thorhog says, do you expect mass exodus when the portal opens? Absolutely, more than what we've seen in the past. Last year, they had 34 scholarship players enter the transfer portal. I would say all but 8 or 9 of those guys didn't matter. They lost 8 or 9 guys, if I can remember them. Like there were some guys like Addison Nichols, Josh Braun, where I think it was just like we can get a better starting guy. Like we can't pay you starting money. We're gonna go get a better guy, and they did. That's absolutely what they did. But the guys like losing Brad Spence, that was one that they didn't want to lose Brad Spence. Isaiah Satania, although they didn't offer him near enough money, Oklahoma was offering him, from what I hear, just a lot of money compared to what Arkansas was willing to pay. But you lost guys because you couldn't pay. Patrick Kudus, they didn't want to lose. They didn't want to lose Luke Haz. They didn't want to lose Jalen Braxton. Who else? Nico Davier. I mean, it's like 8 or 9 guys. Like, you lost 34, but here's another problem. Like, you don't need to be okay with losing 34 guys because they're not good enough to play for you. Those are guys that you recruited and brought into the program. And you're like fine with them leaving because they turned out not to be good. So you got to get better at evaluating the players that you're bringing in, to where if you lose 34 guys, it really stings. They replaced most of those guys with better players, even though the record didn't show it. They replaced most of them with better players. So, mass exodus, yes, though. And I don't think it's should be that big a concern with most of the guys that they're going to end up losing, because this is a 2-10 team. T. Diddy, are you making any road basketball games? I'm not going to make basketball games. I usually just do the football games. That's more Connor's territory. Connor he went to Chicago, went to the United Center. He did not go to Dallas, and we're not planning on sending him to the one in New Jersey coming up against Houston. Marcus TO5 says, what do you gauge are the vibes around Silverfield from the fans, players, and donors? He got a good reaction at First Simmons. I mean, I think a lot. I'll say this. So, when you're in, sometimes I get caught living in the world of social media and just seeing, reactions from social media from, and most people are on social media. But I thought it was cool to go to the announcement ceremony and see a lot of Razorback fans. And, not everybody was just 100% on board, but they were all there, willing to give them a chance and, celebrate the new coach coming in. Ken Hatfield and his wife, Miss Cindy, were sitting behind me right here. Coach Hatfield was right here. And everything that was being said was, hear, hear, go Hogs. Yes, sir. Let's go. Go Hogs. Hear, hear. Everything that was being said, he was excited about it. So that was cool to see. And John Calipari, I don't know if I was supposed to be sitting where I was sitting, but John Calipari was right here. Dave Van Horn was right here, just all around me. So, yeah, I thought people there seemed excited, obviously. I really am hoping things work out. Maybe I'm not supposed to say that as a media person, but I hope things work out for him. I am tired of losing. I'm tired of 20 straight road losses for me. I'm sick of it. I want things to work out for Silverfield. I want to be covering a winning team. I want this 4-8 projection that I just laid out to be thrown back in my face. That's what I want. I want to feel good about them. I want to feel like they got a chance to beat anybody, and not only a chance, but they do it and they pull it off, and they do stuff that you just don't expect. And it can be done. We've seen it. I mean, everybody's looking at Indiana saying, that's what we want to do. Did you pick your entrance song on 103.7 The Buzz, The Zone, Where's My Mind by Pixies? No, I didn't pick that. I guess that's Justin. When we used to do the Hog Hustle, me, Danny, and RJ Hawk, we did the Hog Hustle. I did pick out Chimes on that one, but and we use that as our intro, but no, I didn't pick that one. Hog Fan Junior 8 says chances the Metcalf brothers make the – I've heard some talk about that. I mean, I guess with everything going on at Michigan, it's definitely possible. Jacob Degar says, in your opinion, in what area on paper has the coaching staff most improved? Maybe anywhere on defense. Like I've seen, and I'm not saying like Ron Roberts is going to just turn everything around like that. I think if he has good players, his track record shows that he will have a good defense if he has good players. I don't know that he's going to have a great defense without good players. And I think we have to kind of hope that the Florida situation, like they just weren't very good on defense, was an outlier, and possibly, this situation is just kind of a train wreck. It's a, defense he took over last year, not at the beginning of the season, but took over. And then this year, most of the season's played without their head coach. So I'm hopeful that that's just like an anomaly for him, because he had good defenses at Baylor. I don't know what happened between him and Dave Aranda, but he had a good defense there, and they fired him. And then he went to Auburn, and they had a good defense. So, okay. We've gone an hour 20, so I'm going to wrap it up. I'll wrap it up with this. Pate Josh says, how serious was Houston not considering the Nebraska job and the LSU job, and were there any others? So this was my first coaching search kind of thing, was when I got into this business and Houston Nutt was flirting with Nebraska, and Nebraska sent their plane to come pick him up. That's how serious it was. And Houston, what he wanted was more money. Obviously, he got more money, but he was making less than $1 million a year. But he needed more money for not just him and his assistants and stuff, but he needed some assurance, because the Ted Herod trucking scandal really affected recruiting. It was a 3-year cloud of an investigation that was used against Arkansas a lot in recruiting, and they just didn't put together very good recruiting classes during that time. And he needed a little leeway, and did need it, because they had 2 losing seasons, in the midst of that kind of stuff. And then they built it back up. So there was that aspect of it. And then the LSU job, which I know that Houston felt like that was a job, same as Lane Kiffin, where you could really win at. Like you could really get some talent. But I think that Frank kind of shut that down, just based on, this is more hearsay, but I think he kind of shut that down. Like, look, we went through this last year. If you want to be the Arkansas coach, then, you better be sure, if you're flirting with LSU, that they're going to be the ones that hire you. And I think that shut that down. I don't think he was like the prime target for LSU. So that kind of shut that whole situation down pretty quick. Okay. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate our sponsors. Appreciate Connor Goodson and Danny West. And appreciate all of you fans, even when you say mean things. I don't mind the discussion and the debate. We were talking about that earlier on our message board. I don't mind proving somebody wrong, and I don't mind being, having the feeling that I was wrong when I once thought I was right. So it's important to have debate. It would really suck if we all were just agreeing. It would be like, no spoiler alert, pluribus. It would be like pluribus, So it's good to have debate. It's good to disagree. It's good to deal with people that have negative opinions, and deal with people that have overly positive opinions, and people that are more middle of the road. How boring would it be without that? If you don't have the sour, you can't have the sweet. That's the show today. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, and we'll catch you next time.